there was a person climbing down from the attic, and I was in the house when it happened. So, I guess the wildest thing I've ever experienced happened last year, and I still don't know how to explain it without sounding like I'm making it up. But here it goes. It started with these little things going missing. I live alone in a pretty quiet neighborhood, so I figured I was just being forgetful. A protein bar here, a sock there, whatever. Then my TV would be on a different input than I left it. Nothing huge, just enough to make me second guess myself. The weirdest part? I'd hear these faint bumps in the ceiling sometimes. I chalked it up to raccoons or whatever. My house is old. Stuff creaks. But then one night, I came home late from work and I could swear I saw a shadow move past the vent opening in the hallway ceiling. I told myself I was tired, just my imagination. But I couldn't shake the feeling. So I set up one of those cheap motion sensor cameras I bought off Amazon, pointed it straight at the attic access panel in the hallway. 2 nights later, I got a notification at 2:17 a.m. Motion detected. I opened the clip and my stomach dropped. There was a person climbing down from the attic, like full on quietly stepping down the ladder, looking around and heading into my kitchen. I froze. I was in the house at that time that clip was taken. I called the cops immediately, locked myself in my room with a bat, freaking out while they did a full sweep. They found no one at first, but when they checked the attic, there was a little setup up there. A sleeping bag, some snacks, a small camping stove, empty water bottles. Someone had clearly been living up there. Turns out, it was my neighbor's grown son who apparently had some substance issues and got kicked out a while back. He broke in while I was on vacation a few months earlier and just never left. He'd sneak down at night to grab food or watch TV. He got arrested. I moved out 3 weeks later. I still have trouble sleeping in total silence because now every creak makes me think someone's crawling around above me. I'm 22 years old now. We used to have a neighbor who was around 60 to 70 years old. He passed away a few years ago. When he was still alive, he caused us so much trouble. Scratched our car, poisoned our apple trees and grass, even set off a firework near me that caused temporary hearing loss in one ear when I was 4. All kinds of things. His son was a judge in our city, so pretty much everything we took to court was ruled against us. I remember Dad often called us from work to tell us not to be alone at home, and we'd have to stay at Grandma's. When I was little, maybe 6 or 7, I used to have recurring nightmares about seeing a face outside the bathroom window. The window was above our bathtub. It's high enough that no one could actually see in unless they climbed up onto the roof of our shed, which is directly underneath that window in our garden. Coincidentally, the shed is right next to a fence that separates our yard from the neighbors. I still remember those dreams. I had them pretty much every other night. I never told my parents when I was little. We just didn't talk about stuff like that. So I kept it to myself. I grew up thinking they were just dreams. That was it. But last year, I mentioned them to my therapist. We were talking through some personal problems and I felt like this might be connected. After I got home, Mom asked what I'd talked about with my therapist. So I finally told her. I used to have these dreams. I never really thought they were real, but she told me that I did tell her back when I was a kid that I saw our neighbor on the roof of the shed. I don't remember saying that, but she said I mentioned it several times. Even my friends had told her they saw him up there when they visited, and that it creeped them out. Apparently, I never said he was watching me shower, but after she reminded me of all that, it clicked, and it was like I suddenly remembered. Yeah, I do think it was him. It wouldn't make sense, and the fact that it actually happened still creeps me out. There was another incident that really unsettled me. I was around 9 or 10. I went out onto the balcony one evening. The balcony door was in my room and I'd usually go out there to call my cat. But this time, I saw a person just standing in the middle of our garden. It was already dark, and I couldn't make out who it was. I waited a bit to see what the person would do, but nothing. He didn't move. He was just standing there, staring straight ahead. I called out Dad because I figured it was him, though it felt weird. Then the person looked up at me, and even though it was dark, I could tell it wasn't my dad. I think my eyes had just adjusted to the dark enough that I could make out the silhouette. I ran downstairs to tell my dad, but by the time he came to check, there was no one there. I went back up to my room, stepped out onto the balcony again, and saw my neighbor's back door closing just as I looked over. I can't remember if it was the very next day or a few days later, but we noticed that our grass had turned brown. We found out it had been poisoned, and most of it was way out of reach from his side of the property. Hey, I hope you're enjoying the stories. If you'd like your scary story narrated on the channel, leave it in the comment section or send an email to MrLiminalStories@gmail.com. The channel's still small, so your story is very likely to be featured. Just moved into a new neighborhood, and I'm really starting to get worried. My neighbor, who I don't know at all, comes out every night once it gets dark and just stands there, staring at my house with a creepy look. He doesn't move during these staring sessions. They typically last anywhere from 20 minutes to an hour. I've called the police about it, but they haven't been much help, and honestly, I don't know how to handle this on my own. One time I tried staring back at him, but he wouldn't budge, didn't react at all. I even went to knock on his door once. The house was eerily silent. No answer. When I returned to my porch, I turned around and there he was, just standing there in the window, staring at me with the same blank, unsettling expression. I've been here for a few months now, and he hasn't missed a single night of doing this. One night, I was taking out the trash and he was just standing at the end of my driveway, staring at me. I said, "Hello? What are you doing?" He didn't respond, didn't move, just stood there. I walked away because honestly, I felt like something was about to happen. Literally, as I'm writing this post, he's out there right now staring at my house. I live alone. I'm 45 years old. What do I do? Update, October 25th. I'd like to update everyone and give some more info since I've been getting a lot of questions, and thank you, seriously, for all the advice. I've been losing a lot of sleep over this. Last night, I finally got some rest, so it was a relief. It feels good to have at least some kind of direction now. Hopefully, I can clear up a few things. Number 1, I don't have any pets. Number 2, I don't have any floodlights or security, but that's about to change. I'm heading out to buy some stuff today. Number 3, no, I do not own a firearm and don't have the money for one right now, sadly. Number 4, I've asked a few neighbors about this guy. Nobody knows anything. I'll try to dig up more info. He does have a car in the front yard, but it doesn't look like it's moved in years. I've never seen him leave the house unless it's to come outside and stare at mine. Number 5, he looks to be in his early 40s. I've only seen him in the daytime once, and yup, he was just staring at me from the window. He only seems to come out at night. I work weekdays during the day, so I'm not sure if he's outside then too. Number 6, police say they can't get involved unless he actually steps onto my property. So far, he hasn't. Number 7, I'll be getting an alarm system installed with my next paycheck. It's gonna be an extra bill, but honestly, it'll be worth it. I'm genuinely scared. If you guys only knew the way this man looks at my house, it's honestly freaked me out. I don't have the option to move. This is supposed to be a nice neighborhood. I never expected to be afraid like this. It feels like something out of a horror movie. I don't know what to do, and I don't know who to turn to for help. I'm too scared to approach him because of everything that's happened so far. Thanks for listening. I just hope I find a solution soon. So this happened last night. Around 3 a.m., my brother and I were woken up by loud banging and crying at our front door. We live in a rough neighborhood, so naturally my brother grabbed his firearm, racked it loudly, and started yelling, "It's 3 a.m., go away," through the door. We were both tired as hell and completely freaked out. We'd recently had a girl from the neighborhood break into my car, so we assumed it might be her. I looked through the front door's window. We've got a one-way film on it, and didn't see anyone else around. I crouched near the door and listened. It sounded like a young kid, completely hysterical, begging us to help her call her mom. I told her I was calling 911 and that help was on the way. My brother, still in full adrenaline mode, opens the door, still holding the firearm, and starts yelling at her to calm down. I didn't agree with his approach, but in all fairness, she had just woken up half the block with how loud she was screaming, pressed up against our door. Once he opened the door, I finally got a good look at her. Honestly, part of me was expecting it to be someone from the area pulling some kind of stunt or trying to mess with us. But no, it was a kid. And the look in her eyes while she was kneeling at our doorstep made my heart drop. I guess she was around 14, but she told us someone had crashed into her car down the street and that she left her phone in the wreck, so she couldn't call her mom. But things weren't really adding up. I asked her a few questions. She kept begging me to go with her down the street to the crash, but I told her no way, we're waiting for the cops. About 10 minutes later, 3 tow trucks drive by in the direction we gave 911, so at that point, I felt safe enough to walk with her. On the way, she keeps asking to hold my hand, and I'm thinking, you look like a teenager, you're barely dressed, and I'm a grown man walking through a neighborhood you just woke up. Not a good look. I awkwardly asked her how old she was. She said 18 and then grabbed my hand anyway. I felt super uncomfortable, but her emotions were clearly outweighing mine in that moment. Halfway there, the cops showed up. I flagged them down and explained the situation. Meanwhile, she's telling the officers over and over, I have really bad ADHD and anxiety, and hands me her eyelashes. A full set of false eyelashes. I really didn't want to touch them, but I took them just to help her feel safer or something. One of the officers pulls her aside. The other starts casually asking me a few questions. He told me they had gotten another call about 30 minutes earlier. Someone reported a teenager running barefoot across their lawn. I looked down and, yeah, she had been barefoot the whole time. Then I saw them cuff her. I think they suspected she might have been under the influence, which I was 50-50 on myself. As we're wrapping up, the officer looks at me, still holding the eyelashes, and goes, "What are you gonna do with those, bro?" I told him, "I'll sleep on it. I just want to go back to bed." I headed home and started talking to one of the neighbors about it. He assumed it was her parents' house or something, so he didn't want to get involved in any domestic situation. Makes sense. I guess that explains why no one else came out. Couldn't really fall back asleep after that. I was still shaken up and honestly pretty worried about her. I don't know if that was a justified reaction for her situation, or if she really was unwell, but I'll definitely be praying for her and her family. I lived in Japan for around 10 months a couple of years back as part of a study abroad program, my placement year for university. I was based in Hiroshima, and honestly, pretty much every Japanese person I met was exactly how you'd expect, generous and respectful. All except this one old lady who just so happened to live in the apartment next to me. It was about a month after I'd gotten there. I'm originally from Northern Ireland, so the adjustment was already a lot when our little group of gaijins decided to check out the Saijo Sake Festival. If you don't know, it's a huge rice wine festival, and from what I understand now, everyone gets absolutely smashed. Naturally, as men of fine taste and culture, we sampled all kinds of sake from all over Japan, and got wrecked beyond belief. We eventually caught the train home. I don't remember much except calling my girlfriend and passing out on my futon. Totally normal, right? Then comes 6 a.m. the next morning. My doorbell, loud as hell in that tiny apartment, starts blaring. I'm half dead from the night before. Check the time, and figure it's just one of the guys from downstairs. I look through the peephole and there's a police officer standing outside. First thing in my head, Taylor, what the fuck did you do last night? But I was so sure I just passed out immediately. I open the door, use a translation app to talk to the cop. He tells me there's been a noise complaint, which is weird because all I did was make a phone call and fall asleep. He sees how confused I am, figures it must have been a mistake, and leaves. Next morning, again, 6 a.m., doorbell. I already kind of expected. I check, 2 police officers this time. Same conversation. I swear to them I wasn't making noise, even invite them in to show my apartment. I literally fell asleep watching Netflix. They tell me the complaints are coming from my neighbor. I've never met her. At this point, I'm starting to think she's just a jerk or maybe low-key racist. So I tell the guy at my university who handles us foreign students. He says they're gonna move me to another apartment 1 floor below. I'm annoyed since I'd finally settled in, but whatever. He says he and the landlord will come the next morning to help me move my stuff. That night, I go to bed early to get ready. And at 3 a.m., suddenly, my doorbell starts going off like a siren, non-stop. It's deafening. I shoot awake, frozen with fear. It rings for a solid minute, and just stops. I go to the peephole, nobody there. But I know it was her. The next morning, I'm still shaken. I keep peeking outside, waiting for the others, trying not to be seen. Then I walk back into my room and I realize my sliding balcony door is open. She's there, literally wrapped around the fence that separates our balconies, standing on her side, just staring at me. We lock eyes for a second, and then she whips back around onto her side. 2 seconds later, my doorbell rings again. At that point, I'm like, nope, I'm out. Thankfully, it was just the people helping me move. I told them everything. We rushed through it and got my stuff downstairs fast. She came to my new room once, asked if the police had shown up there. After that, I avoided her completely. To that crazy old lady, let's not meet. Lately, I've been noticing something off about home, like there's something else there with me, my wife, and our 2 dogs. But I haven't been able to put my finger on it. Until today. For some context, I live in a duplex. We share the property with another guy in his mid-20s. He has his own house and we have ours, but we share the laundry room that leads to our respective backyards, which are separated by a fence. This all started around 2 months ago when the guy sent me a text. Hey man, just a heads up, someone stole my bike out of the sunroom. Which is extra creepy because to get to our sun/laundry room, you'd need to hop a brick fence surrounded by shrubby trees and then hurl the bike over. Unless the thief had the biggest nerve on earth and just walked it out through one of our front doors while we weren't home. Either way, it didn't sit right with me. I started making more of an effort to keep the door locked. Fast forward a couple of weeks, I let my dogs into the backyard and one of them starts sniffing at the shed. No big deal. Lizards are coming out with the warmer weather. They probably just chased one under the door. I finally got them to come inside and didn't think much of it. We hardly ever go in that shed. Nothing wrong with it. It's just kind of out of the way. And I'm not really a hang out in the shed type of guy. We mostly use it for storage. Suitcases, furniture that doesn't fit, camping gear, boring suburban stuff. We maybe open it 3 times a year. But after the 18th day in a row of my dogs being obsessed with it, I decided to take a look. Maybe there was a Komodo dragon in there or something, since they wouldn't let it go. Nope, no Komodo. But what I did find literally made me pee myself a little bit, just a few drops. Inside the shed was the bike that my neighbor said had been stolen a while back. My first thought? Oh fuck, my wife's a klepto. But I ruled that out quick. She doesn't even like to bike. Then I started freaking out. What if my neighbor thinks I took it? I mean, it's in my shed. I have no clue how to explain that if he ever finds out. And I wanted to give it back, but I kept looking around. That's when I found one of our sleeping bags, unraveled, balled up behind a box. Inside it, a sack of what looked like $20 in change in singles. There was also a garbage bag full of food wrappers. Eventually, my brain caught up with what I didn't want to admit. Someone, I don't know who, has been living in my shed. Or at least was. Maybe my dogs scared them off, or maybe they sleep there at night and leave during the day. But if they were gone for good, why leave the cash? I didn't touch anything, left it all as I found it. And now I've been sitting here wondering what to do next. Whoever it was must have gotten in through a spare key I kept hidden in the backyard. I brought it inside tonight, locked up everything. Hopefully, whoever it is gets the message and moves on. I'm installing cameras tomorrow. I'll keep you guys updated if anything else happens. Please hope for the best and that this person isn't a lunatic.